They said $90 couldn't buy a miracle, but they hadn't met Ethan Cole. The cold winter wind cuts across the Spokane streets, frosting his eyelashes as he clutches the last bills in his hand, the worn leather wallet barely holding together. Shadow, his 6-year-old German shepherd, pads beside him, paws crunching over the thin layer of snow and ice. Ethan's boots scrape the frozen ground as he approaches the decrepit cabin perched at the edge of the clearing, its roof sagging, windows broken, a skeletal frame shivering under the gray morning sky. The scent of wet wood and mold drifts through the air, mingling with the crisp smell of pine from the nearby forest, a reminder that even in decay, nature endures. He pauses at the rickety porch, the boards groaning under his weight, and runs a hand over the splintered railing, trying to steady his racing heart. Shadow lifts his ears, amber eyes scanning the perimeter, alert to every subtle movement of wind-blown branches, every whisper of snow sliding down the roof. Ethan inhales, feeling the chill of possibility, the tension of the unknown stretching every muscle, and he pushes open the door, the hinges whining in protest. Darkness greets him, swallowing the weak light from the pale winter sun, and for a moment, he hesitates, the past and the future colliding in a quiet flash of memory. Nights in the barracks, laughter, loss, and the solemn promises he had made to himself. The air inside is damp, heavy, carrying the scent of long-abandoned furniture, rust, and the faint tang of something metallic hidden beneath layers of dust. Each step he takes echoes, a rhythm that matches the quick beat of his pulse, as he lets Shadow lead the way, sniffing every corner, nose low, muscles tense, ready to signal danger or discovery. A faded carpet curls at the edges, boards beneath warped and buckled, yet he notices the glimmer of something beneath a pile of debris, a small metallic edge catching the light. Ethan kneels, brushing away dust and broken splinters, hands trembling with anticipation, feeling the weight of possibility, the thrill of potential that might turn despair into hope. Shadow presses close, warm against Ethan's side, grounding him, a silent reminder that loyalty can be found even in the coldest moments, that courage sometimes comes wrapped in the smallest gestures. The distant sound of wind through the trees and the faint trickle of a stream outside the cabin create a soundtrack for the moment, a quiet cinematic pulse that seems to slow time, making each breath, each heartbeat, each scrape of hand against wood, a symphony of tension and promise. Ethan lifts the small box, heart pounding, and in that instant, the cabin no longer feels like decay but a vessel for something hidden, a treasure waiting to be revealed, a miracle lying in wait. As Shadow's low growl vibrates softly against his leg, a signal that what lies ahead will change everything without warning, and that the story of this cold morning has only just begun. The first rays of sunlight filter through the broken windows, casting jagged lines of light across the floorboards that sag under the weight of time. Ethan carefully steps over debris, boots echoing softly against the hollow wood, while Shadow pads close, ears erect, amber eyes scanning each shadowed corner. Dust motes drift lazily in the morning air, disturbed by the movement, catching the light in a dance of tiny sparks. Ethan crouches beside the small metallic box, feeling the rough texture beneath his fingers, the anticipation making his pulse thrum in his chest. He breathes deeply, the crisp winter air mingling with the faint scent of pine from the forest outside, grounding him in the moment. Shadow shifts beside him, tail flicking once, a subtle vibration of energy that seems to guide Ethan toward what lies beneath. Layer by layer, he clears away debris, each piece telling a story of neglect and time forgotten, and beneath it, a faded velvet cloth emerges, edges frayed, the color muted by dust. Ethan lifts it carefully, revealing the first glimpse of something glinting, a hint of gold and silver catching the sun, reflecting off the broken glass and splintered wood. His eyes widen, a mixture of disbelief and cautious hope. Shadow lets out a soft, encouraging whine, nudging Ethan with a paw, and he smiles faintly, feeling the warmth of companionship in the cold cabin. The box shifts slightly as he opens it fully, revealing carefully wrapped bundles that hint at the treasures hidden within, documents neatly tied with string, a small ornate key, and a collection of coins that sparkle with a history long past. Each item holds the promise of a story, a connection to someone who had left traces of their life behind. Ethan's mind races, imagining the lives intertwined with these objects, the choices and chances that led them here, and he feels a swell of gratitude for the moment, for Shadow's steady presence, and for the courage that led him to this place. The cabin, once a symbol of decay and despair, transforms in his mind into a sanctuary of possibility, a place where the forgotten can be remembered and small miracles quietly unfold. Outside, the wind carries the scent of snow and pine deeper into the room, brushing against Ethan's cheeks, sharp and invigorating, a reminder that life persists even in abandoned corners. He pauses, letting the silence settle around him, the rhythmic breathing of Shadow, the distant rustle of the forest, the creak of old timbers forming a gentle symphony that seems to celebrate discovery, trust, and quiet resilience. A faint smile curls Ethan's lips as he lifts a bundle, the weight of history and potential resting lightly in his hands, and he knows, without needing to speak it aloud, that this morning will mark the beginning of something remarkable, a turning point where risk met reward, companionship guided action, and the unexpected revealed itself in the most delicate and profound way. The morning sun climbs higher, sending streams of warm light through the gaps in the broken window panes, glinting off the coins and documents Ethan has uncovered. He sits cross-legged on the worn wooden floor, eyes scanning each item with a careful curiosity, tracing the edges with fingertips as if they could speak to him. Shadow lies beside him, head resting on his knee, amber eyes following every movement, offering silent companionship. The cabin, once a hollow shell, begins to feel alive, filled with history and possibility. Ethan carefully unfolds a yellowed letter, the handwriting delicate and precise, and reads the story of a family who had lived here decades ago, leaving behind a trail of memories and hidden treasures for whoever might stumble upon them. Each page turns slowly, the rustle of paper mingling with the distant whisper of wine through the cracked walls, and Ethan feels a connection, a bridge across time, to those who came before him. Shadow lifts his head, nose twitching as if sensing the significance of each discovery, pawing gently at a bundle wrapped in faded velvet. Ethan unwraps it to find a collection of small, intricately carved figurines, their surfaces worn smooth by years of handling, yet each one telling a silent story. He places them carefully on the floor, arranging them as if to listen to their quiet narratives, and a smile tugs at the corner of his lips, a rare moment of peace amidst the uncertainty. The cabin smells of old pine and dust, a mixture that is strangely comforting, grounding Ethan in the present while whispering hints of the past. Outside, the forest stretches endlessly, the sun catching frost-laden branches, turning them to sparkling silver threads against the pale blue sky. Ethan rises, moving to the far corner of the room, uncovering another small chest tucked beneath a collapsed shelf. The hinges squeak as he lifts the lid, revealing more items carefully preserved, photographs, coins, and a small notebook filled with meticulous notes about the cabin and its history. Shadow nudges the chest with his nose, a reminder that they are partners in this discovery, bound by trust and shared anticipation. Each item Ethan examines seems to layer a new story, adding depth to the experience, a quiet revelation that the cabin is more than just abandoned wood and stone. It is a vessel of memory, a hidden world waiting for someone to understand and preserve it. He sits back, letting Shadow settle at his side, and takes a moment to breathe in the quiet, the soft light, and the sense of awe that fills the space. It is a morning of revelation, of patient uncovering, where the past and present intertwine, and Ethan realizes that sometimes the smallest act of courage, stepping into an unknown cabin on a snowy morning, can unlock a lifetime of stories, a treasure not measured merely in monetary value, but in the richness of connection, history, and the quiet joy of shared discovery. The light shifts as the morning grows brighter, spilling over the cabin walls and illuminating the dust particles dancing in the air like tiny sparks. Ethan carefully examines the notebook he discovered, pages yellowed but filled with precise handwriting, detailing not only the cabin's history but the lives of those who had cherished it long ago. Each line he reads paints a picture of families, celebrations, and quiet moments now preserved in ink, echoing through the empty space around him. Shadow moves closer, tail wagging slightly, ears tilted forward as if listening to the stories carried on the air. Ethan pauses to hold a photograph, a faded image of a family standing proudly on the cabin porch, smiling at a camera long since forgotten. The photo warms him despite the chill, a gentle reminder that even abandoned places carry memories waiting to be honored. He sets it down carefully and runs his fingers over the coins, their cool metal contrasting with the warmth of the sunlight streaming through the gaps. Each coin tells a tale, a fragment of someone's hopes, and Ethan feels the weight of responsibility to preserve these moments. Shadow shifts, sniffing at the edge of a wooden chest, and Ethan kneels beside it again, uncovering bundles wrapped in cloth, their contents secretive, precious. He unties the string gently, revealing a set of letters and small trinkets, each one sparking a connection across time, weaving the past into the present. Outside, the forest sways gently in the breeze, the branches brushing against one another, a soft whisper accompanying the quiet reverence inside the cabin. Ethan feels a deep sense of calm and purpose, the enormity of the discovery settling around him like a protective cloak. He places the letters in order, following the sequence of life that once flowed within these walls, and with each careful action, he senses the pulse of history, subtle but insistent. Shadow nudges his hand, reminding him that the moment is shared, that their bond is strengthened by discovery and trust. Ethan leans back slightly, taking in the space, the light, and the weight of stories now in his hands, feeling the cabin transform from a forgotten ruin into a living archive of human experience. The chill of the morning air mixes with the warmth of sunlight and the scent of pine, creating a sensory tapestry that grounds him, every sound amplified. The creak of floorboards, the rustle of papers, Shadow's soft breathing beside him. He imagines the footsteps of those who once walked here, the laughter and quiet conversations, the small gestures of life preserved in each object. For a moment, he allows himself to believe in the miracle of connection, the extraordinary hidden in the ordinary, and he realizes that the smallest act of curiosity and courage can uncover treasures beyond measure, shaping a story that continues to unfold with each careful examination and gentle touch. The sun climbs higher, brushing warmth over the frost-covered clearings surrounding the cabin. And Ethan takes a deep breath, feeling the crisp air fill his lungs as Shadow shifts beside him, tail brushing against his leg, a gentle reminder of loyalty and presence. Each artifact he has uncovered now sits in careful order around him, the coins gleaming faintly, photographs catching the sunlight, and letters arranged in chronological sequence, forming a mosaic of the past that whispers to him of lives once lived and hopes once held. He kneels again, examining a small, intricately carved wooden box, its hinges stiff with age, and as he lifts the lid, the scent of cedar and aged wood fills the cabin, grounding him in the tactile reality of discovery. Inside, a delicate collection of jewelry and trinkets rests on faded velvet, each piece catching the light in subtle ways, telling silent stories of careful hands and cherished moments. Ethan's fingers trace the contours of a tiny locket, imagining the hands that polished it, the laughter and conversations that once surrounded it, and he smiles faintly, a quiet sense of reverence and awe settling over him. Shadow nudges his arm gently, a soft reminder to pause, to feel the weight of what has been found, and Ethan leans back, looking around the cabin, noting how the morning light transforms the space, shadows receding as warmth seeps into every corner. He feels a profound connection to the people who once lived here, as if their presence lingers in the air, watching him carefully, welcoming his respect and attention. Outside, the snow sparkles, trees sway lightly in the breeze, and the distant call of a bird punctuates the serene silence, a soundtrack to contemplation and reflection. Ethan gathers the letters, photographs, and small treasures, arranging them with care, considering the stories they tell, the continuity between past and present, and the responsibility that now rests lightly on his shoulders. Shadow watches intently, eyes alert, as Ethan carefully lifts a bundle of old maps, the edges frayed, revealing the layout of the property and the surrounding land, a guide through time and space, linking his discovery to the larger world. The cabin, once a place of neglect and solitude, now feels alive, infused with the energy of remembered lives, and Ethan feels a quiet thrill of anticipation, the sense that this day, this moment, is more than simple chance, that it is a convergence of patience, courage, and the unspoken bond between man and dog. He takes a final glance around the room, letting the quiet settle into his mind, the sunlight warming his face, Shadow's presence a comforting rhythm beside him, and a profound sense of gratitude rises within him, the kind that does not demand words but lingers in the chest, a calm affirmation that some of the most meaningful discoveries come to those who approach the unknown with care, curiosity, and unwavering attention. The afternoon sun warms the cabin, softening the edges of broken furniture and revealing the textures of old wood and faded paint. Ethan moves slowly, each step measured, as if the cabin itself holds its breath, waiting to share its secrets. Shadow pads alongside him, ears alert, tail flicking in subtle rhythms that mirror the quiet tension in the room. Ethan picks up a small wooden box, the grain smooth from years of handling, and lifts the lid, revealing letters tied with delicate ribbons, envelopes yellowed but intact, and tokens of memories carefully preserved. He sifts through each letter, reading fragments of laughter, advice, and reflections from the past, and feels the presence of lives once lived pressing softly against the walls, the air alive with their stories. Outside, a gentle breeze stirs the branches, sending dappled sunlight through the windows, illuminating motes of dust that drift like tiny sparks, creating a visual symphony that complements the unfolding history. Ethan sets a letter aside and uncovers a small collection of hand-carved figurines, their shapes familiar yet foreign, telling silent tales of craftsmanship and care, each one a testament to patience, skill, and affection. He places them carefully on a shelf, imagining the hands that held them, the people who arranged them, and a warmth rises in his chest, a sense of connection to a past that now touches the present. Shadow rests his head against Ethan's leg, amber eyes reflecting the sunlight, a gentle reminder that discovery is shared, that the bonds of trust and companionship can illuminate even the most forgotten places. Ethan uncovers a faded photograph, the edges curled, showing a family standing proudly on the cabin porch, smiles frozen in time, eyes bright with hope. He traces the outline of faces with his fingers, feeling the pulse of history in a tactile way, imagining the conversations, the quiet evenings, the simple joys and sorrows that filled this space. Each artifact is a note in a symphony of remembrance, and Ethan feels a surge of gratitude, not for what is valuable in currency, but for the richness of connection, the stories that now live again in his hands. The cabin, once empty and silent, now vibrates with the echoes of human life, and Ethan pauses to take it all in, the sound of Shadow breathing, the wind brushing against the roof, the distant rustle of pine needles outside, a gentle orchestration that punctuates the quiet reverence. He gathers the letters and trinkets, arranging them thoughtfully, creating a tableau that bridges time, linking his discovery to the people who came before, and feeling a profound sense of awe at the tapestry of lives, small miracles, and the enduring strength of stories preserved in hidden corners. As he stands, sunlight catching the edges of the photographs and coins, he realizes that the cabin is no longer simply a place of decay, but a vessel of memory and hope, a reminder that curiosity, courage, and companionship can unlock treasures beyond imagination and create a narrative that continues to unfold with every careful, attentive action. The late afternoon light shifts, casting long, soft shadows across the cabin floor, illuminating the textures of old wood, dust, and scattered treasures that Ethan has uncovered. He pauses, breathing in the cool, crisp air that drifts through the broken windows, the scent of pine and cold earth mingling with the warm sunlight. Shadow sits attentively at his side, ears perked, watching his every movement with quiet vigilance. Ethan bends over a small chest, lifting a delicate bundle of letters tied with a faded ribbon, and as he reads each word, he is transported through time, hearing echoes of laughter, whispered advice, and moments of daily life carefully recorded decades ago. The room feels alive with presence, the energy of lives once intertwined with these objects palpable in the air, and Ethan senses the weight of responsibility and privilege in holding these memories. He lays each letter carefully on the table, next to a set of coins and hand-carved figurines, imagining the hands that created them, the people who cherished them, and the lives that unfolded within these walls long before he arrived. Shadow nudges his arm softly, a gentle reminder that discovery is a shared journey, that patience, care, and trust reveal wonders hidden in plain sight. Ethan shifts his attention to a small collection of photographs, edges curled and colors faded, each frame capturing moments of pride, joy, and quiet reflection from the families who once called the cabin home. He sets them carefully in a row, studying the expressions and imagining the stories behind each one, feeling a warmth in his chest, as if the past is breathing alongside him. Outside, the wind rustles the forest, brushing snow and pine needles against the cabin walls, adding a soft, natural rhythm to the quiet concentration inside. Ethan uncovers another box tucked beneath the collapsed floorboards, hinges stiff, revealing journals filled with meticulous notes about the cabin, its grounds, and the surrounding lands, each page a window into the daily lives, challenges, and joys of those who had cared for this place. He traces the writing with his fingers, aware of the fragility and importance of these records, and the sense of connection deepens, linking his present efforts with the dedication of past hands. Shadow leans close, warm against Ethan's leg, a constant, grounding presence, reinforcing the bond that guides him through the cabin and the careful handling of each artifact. The sunlight continues to shift, painting the room in gold and shadow, highlighting the textures and contours of the collected items, and Ethan feels a quiet triumph, a sense that the meticulous attention and reverent curiosity he brings are allowing the stories of this forgotten place to live again. Every object, every page, every small detail contributes to a larger understanding, a tapestry of human experience preserved in unexpected ways. And as he steps back, letting the room breathe around him, he knows that these discoveries are more than relics. They are echoes of life, waiting to inspire, teach, and connect across time, with Shadow faithfully beside him, sharing the wonder, the patience, and the unspoken joy of uncovering a hidden world together. As the afternoon light softens into a golden hue, Ethan pauses in the center of the cabin, letting the warmth of the sun filter through the cracks and illuminate the artifacts he has uncovered. Shadow rests at his feet, amber eyes glinting with a quiet curiosity, tail flicking gently against the wooden floor. Ethan picks up a fragile envelope, the paper thin and yellowed, and opens it carefully, revealing sketches and notes from decades ago, detailing not only the cabin's layout, but the daily routines and small joys of the family who once lived here. Each line he reads evokes a sense of continuity, a link across time, as if the past is whispering directly into the present. He sets the envelope aside and lifts a small wooden frame, holding a photograph of children playing near the porch, their laughter almost audible in the sunlight that now dances across the floorboards. The cabin feels alive, each object a heartbeat, each shadow a story. Ethan runs a hand over a carved figurine, the smooth curves worn by generations, imagining the careful hands that shaped it and the quiet moments of pride and care that once accompanied its creation. Shadow nudges his hand, pressing warm fur against his leg, a reminder of shared discovery and companionship. Ethan's eyes wander across the room, noticing the subtle patterns of sunlight highlighting the dust particles, the creaking floorboards echoing softly, the wind brushing through the broken window panes carrying a scent of pine and cold earth. He gathers the remaining letters and coins, arranging them with deliberate care, creating a small tableau of the past that seems to pulse with life in the still air. Each artifact now feels connected, the sequence of discovery forming a narrative that spans decades, binding Ethan to the cabin and the lives it sheltered. He pauses, letting the quiet envelop him, the cabin and Shadow, breathing in the stillness, the sense of reverence, the subtle thrill of uncovering history piece by piece. The forest outside rustles gently, the sound mingling with the soft hum of the cabin settling, creating a natural symphony that underscores the quiet intimacy of the moment. Ethan places a final photograph on the table, stepping back to survey the arrangement, feeling the weight of time, memory, and the small miracles hidden in plain sight. Shadow lifts his head, eyes meeting Ethan's with a steady, knowing gaze, as if acknowledging the significance of what has been found. The sun dips lower, casting long shadows, and Ethan leans against the wall, taking in the room, the treasures, and the companionship of Shadow, realizing that the cabin is no longer simply a structure of wood and stone, but a living chronicle of human experience, patience, and discovery, and that the morning's courage has unlocked not only hidden treasures, but a profound connection to lives long past, waiting quietly to be remembered and honored. The cabin grows quiet as Ethan arranges the final pieces of his discovery, the golden light of late afternoon streaming through the broken panes and casting long, gentle shadows across the floor. Shadow sits alert at his side, amber eyes flicking from object to object, a constant and steady presence that mirrors Ethan's own careful attention. Ethan lifts a small, weathered journal, its spine cracked but pages intact, and flips through the meticulous notes, absorbing the details of daily life, the small triumphs and ordinary routines that once filled these walls. Each word, each sketch, carries a pulse of human presence, and he can almost hear faint echoes of voices, soft laughter, the scrape of chairs against floors long gone. He places the journal down and examines a delicate trinket, a tiny carved bird, worn smooth by the fingers that cherished it decades before. Shadow nudges his hand lightly, prompting him to look up, and Ethan notices the interplay of light and shadow highlighting the contours of each object, the texture of the old wood, the subtle reflections off the coins, casting the room in an almost sacred glow. He moves to a corner where a small, ornate box rests partially hidden, lifting it carefully to reveal letters bound with ribbon, sketches, and a folded map detailing the land surrounding the cabin. The sense of continuity, of stories preserved and waiting to be told, presses gently against him, a reminder that discovery is both privilege and responsibility. Outside, the wind stirs the pine trees, brushing against the cabin and carrying the crisp scent of winter, a counterpoint to the warmth of sunlight spilling inside. Ethan runs his hand over the map, tracing paths and imagining footsteps that crossed these grounds long ago, feeling a profound connection to the lives that unfolded here and the care they took to preserve their world. Shadow leans into him slightly, a tactile anchor as he continues to explore each artifact, reading snippets of letters aloud softly, savoring the rhythm of language and memory, allowing each moment to settle, to resonate. He pauses at a photograph, the edges curling and colors muted, depicting a family standing on the porch, smiles radiant and eyes bright with anticipation, and he feels a swell of empathy, a deep respect for the passage of time and the stories left behind. Each item, carefully handled, each note, photograph, or trinket contributes to the living tapestry of the cabin, forming a narrative that stretches beyond the walls into the forest, the sunlight, the cold air, and into Ethan's heart. Shadow's steady gaze reminds him that discovery is never solitary, that companionship and trust amplify the quiet joy of uncovering the hidden and forgotten. As he leans back, surveying the room, the objects arranged around him, the dust illuminated in shafts of sunlight, the forest outside swaying gently, Ethan realizes that this cabin is no longer simply abandoned, but transformed into a vessel of history, of care, and of small, extraordinary miracles revealed through patience, curiosity, and shared presence. The late afternoon light deepens, turning the cabin into a warm cocoon of gold and amber, highlighting the layers of dust, the gentle curves of worn wood, and the delicate contours of the treasures Ethan has uncovered. Shadow lies close by, head resting lightly against Ethan's leg, eyes tracking every subtle movement, attentive to the rhythm of discovery. Ethan lifts a small, intricately carved box from the table, fingers brushing over the smooth, time-worn surface, and carefully unties the string securing its contents. Inside, he finds a collection of handwritten notes, sketches of the cabin and surrounding land, and a few small keepsakes, each one carrying a whisper of lives lived with care, attention, and love. He opens the notes slowly, savoring each sentence, imagining the hands that penned them, the eyes that read them, the quiet moments of reflection that shaped them. The cabin feels alive with stories, each item a heartbeat resonating softly against the walls, the creaking floorboards, and the fading light filtering through shattered panes. Ethan leans back, letting his eyes wander over the collected treasures, the sun highlighting the edges of coins, photographs, and delicate trinkets, and a profound sense of connection grows within him, binding the present to the past in a tapestry of careful attention and reverent curiosity. Shadow shifts slightly, tail brushing against Ethan's side, as if encouraging him to see not just the objects but the lives they represent, to recognize the continuity of care and memory that flows invisibly through the cabin. Ethan picks up a folded map, the edges frayed, the ink slightly faded, and spreads it across the floor, tracing the routes and paths, imagining the footsteps that once crossed these lands, feeling the hum of history beneath his fingertips. The sunlight warms his face as he lifts another photograph, a family on the porch decades ago, smiles radiant and expressions of hope frozen in time, and he senses the presence of those who lived and loved within these walls, a subtle energy that transforms the space from abandoned ruin to living memory. Each artifact, carefully handled, each photograph, letter, or trinket adds depth to the narrative, and Ethan feels the quiet thrill of discovery, the intimate joy of connecting to something greater than himself. Outside, the wind stirs the pine branches, sending soft whispers through the cabin, the sound merging with the gentle creak of timbers and the occasional shuffle of shadows' paws on the floor, creating a serene symphony of presence and attention. Ethan arranges the remaining items with thoughtful care, letting them tell their story across the room, a mosaic of memory, hope, and quiet triumph. He leans back against the wall, feeling the weight of the day, the sunlight fading slowly, and realizes that this cabin, once overlooked and forgotten, now holds a living chronicle of human experience, a hidden world revealed through patience, courage, and the unwavering bond between man and dog, with Shadow faithfully beside him, sharing the quiet wonder and the profound sense of connection that makes discovery meaningful. The cabin settles into a quiet rhythm as the sun dips lower, casting warm, amber light through the shattered windows and across the scattered treasures Ethan has carefully uncovered. Shadow lies close, ears flicking with each small sound, as if attuned to the very heartbeat of the cabin itself. Ethan moves deliberately from one item to the next, lifting a small, faded photograph and tracing the edges with his fingers, imagining the smiles and gestures frozen within the frame. The letters he has read earlier now feel alive, their words echoing softly in his mind, creating a tapestry of human experience that transcends time. He leans over a cluster of coins, carefully examining each one, noticing subtle engravings and markings that hint at a story long forgotten, a narrative preserved by patience and care. Shadow shifts, pressing against Ethan's leg, a steady presence reminding him that discovery is shared, and that connection can be found even in the quietest corners of the world. Ethan uncovers a small, carved figurine, worn smooth by decades of handling, and holds it up to the light, watching the golden rays illuminate the intricate details, casting tiny shadows that move across the floorboards. Each artifact now seems to pulse with the energy of lives once lived, and Ethan feels a profound sense of humility and wonder, realizing that his careful attention is allowing these memories to breathe again. Outside, the wind rustles the pines, carrying a faint chill that blends with the warmth of the sun, the contrast grounding him in the present while honoring the past. He opens a journal with delicate pages, filled with neat handwriting and sketches, and reads snippets aloud softly, savoring the rhythm of language and the emotions encoded within, as if the cabin itself is whispering its secrets directly to him. Shadow tilts his head, watching with quiet intelligence, nudging Ethan gently with a paw, urging him to see the narrative as a whole, to recognize the interwoven stories of care, resilience, and subtle beauty. Ethan pauses, breathing in the cabin, the light, the faint scent of pine mingling with aged wood and dust, and feels the weight and significance of what he has uncovered, a hidden world preserved through small acts of devotion and attention. The scattered items, once lost and overlooked, now form a coherent and moving tableau, a mosaic of human experience illuminated by the soft glow of the late afternoon sun, while shadow remains close, a faithful companion witnessing the quiet miracle of discovery. Ethan steps back, surveying the cabin and the treasures arrayed before him, the golden light reflecting off letters, photographs, coins, and trinkets, and a sense of fulfillment rises within him, a quiet understanding that this day, this discovery, has transformed not just the space, but also his connection to history, memory, and the enduring bond of loyalty and curiosity shared with Shadow, the dog who has been his steadfast witness throughout this unfolding journey. The fading sunlight filters through the broken windows, casting long, warm streaks across the cabin floor, highlighting the dust that dances slowly in the golden beams. Ethan sits cross-legged amidst the scattered treasures, letters, and photographs, lifting each item gently, allowing the textures, the edges, and the subtle scents to speak to him of lives long past. Shadow rests at his side, eyes soft but alert, tail flicking once in quiet acknowledgement of the day's revelations. Ethan unfolds a delicate sheet of paper, yellowed and fragile, tracing the elegant handwriting with his fingertip, imagining the thoughts and emotions of the person who had carefully preserved these words decades ago. The notes describe daily routines, celebrations, and the minutiae of life in a way that feels intimate, almost sacred, and Ethan reads slowly, savoring each sentence, absorbing the rhythm of past existence that now breathes through his hands. He sets the paper down beside a small collection of coins and trinkets, each reflecting the sunlight differently, and a warmth rises in his chest, a quiet recognition of continuity, memory, and care. Shadow nudges the corner of a bundle of letters, prompting Ethan to open them one by one, revealing photographs, small sketches, and pressed flowers, each artifact layering further depth onto the narrative of the cabin and the people who had once inhabited it. Ethan leans back, letting the weight of history settle around him, and notices the interplay of light and shadow, the warmth against the cold wooden floor, the scent of pine mingling with aged wood and dust, creating a sensory tapestry that grounds him in the moment. Each discovery strengthens the sense of connection across time, the invisible thread linking his curiosity, patience, and attentiveness to the care and intention of those who came before. Outside, the trees sway gently in the afternoon breeze, their needles brushing softly against the cabin walls, adding a delicate rhythm that harmonizes with the quiet creaks and whispers of the structure. Ethan lifts a small figurine carved with meticulous precision, examining the worn details and imagining the hands that shaped it, the hours devoted to crafting something beautiful, a legacy of care hidden for decades. Shadow rests his head on Ethan's knee, a steady presence, sharing the moment silently, reminding him that discovery is not solitary, that companionship amplifies the wonder and significance of uncovering forgotten stories. Ethan glances around the cabin, the sunlight catching the edges of photographs and coins, illuminating the textures and shapes of each item, and feels a profound sense of fulfillment, a quiet joy that arises from patient attention, reverence, and respect for the past. In this moment, the cabin is transformed from an abandoned structure into a living repository of memory, a place where courage, curiosity, and careful observation have unlocked hidden narratives, and where the bond between man and dog, steady and unwavering, has guided the process of rediscovery, allowing history to breathe once more, softly and profoundly, into the present. The sun sinks low, bathing the cabin in a soft, amber glow that fills every corner with warmth and quiet reverence. Ethan sits cross-legged amidst the treasures he has uncovered, the letters, photographs, coins, and trinkets arranged around him like pieces of a mosaic, each one telling a story of a life long past, yet now alive in his hands. Shadow rests at his side, head lightly touching Ethan's knee, eyes bright and alert, the faithful companion through every moment of discovery. Ethan lifts a carefully preserved journal, running his fingers over the worn leather cover, and opens it to reveal pages filled with meticulous notes, sketches, and reflections. Each line conveys the rhythm of daily life, the small joys, the quiet triumphs, and the thoughtful observations of those who once inhabited this place. He reads slowly, absorbing the texture of language, the cadence of thoughts, the subtle hints of personality embedded in the careful handwriting. Shadow nudges his hand, a soft, grounding presence, and Ethan smiles faintly, feeling the weight and significance of the connection between past and present. Outside, the forest is bathed in the soft light of dusk, the wind rustling pine needles, carrying the cool scent of earth and snow, and the cabin feels as though it holds its breath, listening as Ethan lays out the final items, creating a coherent tableau that reflects not only objects but lives, memories, and quiet miracles. Each photograph, each coin, each delicate trinket becomes part of a narrative that stretches across decades, binding Ethan, Shadow, and the cabin together in an intimate conversation with history. He leans back, letting the sunlight wash over him, illuminating the fine details of the letters, the glint of coins, the faded colors of photographs, and the smooth contours of small carvings. In this light, the cabin is transformed from a place of neglect and solitude into a sanctuary of remembrance and connection, where patient observation and gentle care reveal the depth and richness of human experience. Ethan feels a profound gratitude, a calm joy that arises from having been entrusted with these lives, their stories, and their quiet legacies. Shadow shifts closer, pressing gently against Ethan, sharing the calm, the warmth, and the silent acknowledgement that they have uncovered something remarkable together. The cabin hums softly with the memory of footsteps, laughter, and thoughtful gestures, and Ethan knows that while the day draws to a close, the impact of what he has found, the lessons of patience, curiosity, and reverence, will linger long after, a quiet blessing, a testament to the enduring power of careful attention, gentle discovery, and the bonds of loyalty and companionship that guide us to see and honor the hidden miracles in the world around us.